I'm sitting out here at a construction site where they're building one of those data centers, right? And I'm waiting for a coworker to show up. He's at a different site where they're building yet another big center, and he had to do some stuff. So, and this job I do here, it's a two-person job anyway. So while I'm waiting, I've been reading this BattleTech Birthright, and this particular section that pops up where Lore Master Helmer, I believe his name, is talking to Anastasia Klarinsky about her taking control of the SLDF, the reborn SLDF, and his reasoning for it. Not the least being that she's a Klarinsky, and it's fitting that a Klarinsky should be there to to help build the reborn SLDF. So there's a continuer, a pattern from the original great, Kerensky, who led the SLDF off into the hinterlands of the periphery to eventually become the clans. And a couple things that popped up right off the bat, I just kind of wanted to get it out of my head, is first off, Helmer's discussing the fact that the original houses were subordinate to the to the Star League, but they were still their own entities, and each one has their own motivations and plans for the future. If that's what you want to call it, that. And so you have to, Alaric Ward has this mistaken idea that because he become ilkhan, that the Star League is reborn in its full form, and he is already willing to push the boundaries of his limited military capacity to the point perhaps of foolhardiness, because he's in an awkward spot. He can't sit behind the wall and not look weak. And at the same time, he risks becoming even weaker by expanding beyond the wall by force. And that's what he's intending to do. So we see the beginnings of the Star League, the reborn Star League Defense Force. And one of the things that, first off, that come to this concept is this adage of herding cats. Have you ever tried to herd cats? It's not impossible. You can herd cats. I have a house full of cats. I know for a fact that you can herd cats. The most effective way of herding cats is by baiting them, luring them, providing them with something that gets their attention or something that they want, and that they will then follow you to acquire that or to fill that want or desire. I.e., I got a treat here, and half or more than half the cats will follow me into the kitchen or into the different room on the assumption that they're going to get a piece of that treat, or they're going to get the treat. That said, you also have to have acceptance that while you can herd cats, not all cats are going to allow you to herd them at the same time. So there's always going to be somebody that sits off, that's aloof, that's either pretending to ignore you or is not interested in what you're offering. So you have to find other ways to entice them to follow the group. And then you have to accept that there's always going to be the one who doesn't want to do what you want them to do. So in a lot of aspects, that analogy is fitting to what they're looking at, trying to reborn the Star League. Alaric's failing to understand that you just don't snap your fingers just because he followed the founding fathers' plan, and now the clan wolf is the clan. Suddenly they're not all falling in line, and everything's not coming up roses the way he thought it would just instantly happen. This means that there's a whole lot of hard work ahead for them to actually achieve this. This got me thinking on a slight tangent, going off and wondering, okay, the old lost command, meme that gets a lot of chuckles and annoyance in various circles when it gets brought up. From a game perspective, from the lore perspective, the last thing anybody really wants is a solidified Star League reborn, which everybody's happy and coexisting without a problem. Because then suddenly we don't really have a game anymore. It becomes extremely boring. And though you could have the rebellion against the establishment, it's been done a dozen times, 100 times before in other game systems. It's not that in a bag of chips. It's not going to sustain. It'll take a long time before Alaric's vision of a reborn Star League really truly takes effect. So we will have decades, or at least a decade, of interesting fun and lore and stories and things like that to keep us busy and distracted, i.e. us being the herd of cats that they're trying to, get all to go in one direction. So this in mind got me thinking, okay, there always needs to be that unknown mystery or that possible problem. So the home clans come to mind. At some point, the home clans might get it in their head that the invading clans that are in the inner sphere, especially this upstart wolf clan who believes they're now the ill clan, somehow could contest this and have a second clan invasion of the inner sphere. So that could be a decade or two down the road. It may never happen. Right. The idea is that they're still out there. It's just like a lot of people want to. They love it, they hate it, they don't know, they want to leave it dead. The Wolverines. We have enough windows, enough crumbs to suggest at least a small portion of the Wolverines escaped the trial of annihilation, and we don't know where. Some of them believe they settled out by Nouvelle Castile, but there's enough evidence to suggest that they did. That was a very tiny percentage, and they're long forgotten. Just like there was suggestions that they joined up with the Comstar, and became part of Comstar, but that's came and gone, so that's not longer. It doesn't mean that there isn't potentially yet another starfaring mech-capable civilization in out in the galaxy, because the galaxy is a very vast place, and even as big as the inner sphere and the deep periphery is, it's still a tiny drop in the galactic scheme of things. So there's always a possibility for two, at least, potential distant threats to a united Starling. Of course, then there's always the internal disagreements and problems, civil wars, disillusion, breaking up, one house, going after, deciding that they should be the Star Lord, et cetera, et cetera. So bringing us back to the concepts here, where Helmer's suggesting to Anastasia that she should take over, and because her and Chance Vickers currently are the two likeliest to succeed Alaric, because war is unpredictable and dangerous. So is life in the clans. Alaric isn't going to be on top forever. He may not, he's not going to be the ill clan forever. He's going to pass away at some point. He's going to come to an end. And then what happens? I mean, the Clan Wolf as the ill clan is woefully weak. Now, if you look at all the surviving clans that are in the inner sphere, most of them have their own foils and their own problems too. They're not all as powerful and all as capable. It's the same with the great houses. Most of the great houses in the inner sphere are still on their back legs. They have lots of internal problems. At the current point, you could say the Capella Confederation is on the top of the fence, and the Combine is not too far behind them, but their time is waning. We know that for a fact. The Dragon's Tongue is disintegrating. It's going to be completely pushed out of the Federated Suns. It will take the Federated Suns some time to reestablish themselves, but they've still lost a lot. Meanwhile, the Commonwealth, House Steiner, they're in shambles. They have a long way to go before they can reconstitute. And as a history, first time in the history of that they have ever been in this kind of strait. Then the Free Worlds League, we all know what kind of mess they are, and they've always been a mess. So you have a lot of smaller Messian houses as well. The Duchy of Andrian comes to mind right off the top of my head. If Alaric's people truly form a Star League, we don't have to see the original 5 great houses. We could see 15 houses come out of this, with all the internal bickering and border skirmishing and stuff that would entail. Like I said, we're looking at a decade or better of potential for the game as a hobby, and maybe further. I don't like the idea of the Star League just becoming, Big Brother and having this idea of, of the Lost Command kind of thing. I kind of get snarky about it and stuff, but I just don't see that as a viable future for. It might have been an idea in the past, but it's not going to happen now. The fact that Alaric Ward is a bit blind to some of these limitations is actually encouraging. It just goes to prove that he also has hubris, and his plot armor still has holes in it, right? So the maneuvering for moving Anastasia Krinsky from the Wolf Toman directly and putting her in charge of the SLDF as a counterfoil to the Wolf Toman. Helmer points out on a number of key points in this little chapter that in order for the Star League Reborn to be taken serious, they've got a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be a wolf warrior. It needs to be somebody who knows the inner sphere as much as the clans, and is a fearless warrior. So anyway, that's my thought. My coworker just showed up. So until next time, you guys got some comments and stuff, go ahead and throw it in there. You guys have yourself a great day.